Hello everybody, I'm Devin Hunter and I am broadcasting to you sorta not really live from the middle of a super bloom here in California. So if you hear me sniffle or if I'm congested or any of those other things, don't worry about it. I'm working my way through some stuff. It is peak allergy season out where I'm at. But that's okay because we did get all of this amazing rain and that allowed for a lot of our natural plants and, for our natural ecosystem to reestablish itself after several years of a pretty intense drought. So I will take the sniffles if that means that we've got plenty of water for the plants and we've got plenty of water for our aquifers and all of that other good stuff. So, it's catch-22. In this particular workshop, we are going to talk about plant spirit mediumship. And specifically, this is one of those topics that I feel has been underserved in a lot of our kind of traditional crafty books. If there is an author here today, or if there's somebody presenting here at the festival, or rather the conference, they are somebody who has a relationship with plant spirits. They are somebody who I personally reached out to because of this relationship, and I wanted them to share their wisdom. I wanted them to share their magic because it's such an important aspect of what we do as witches. Whether you consider yourself to be a green witch or not, working with plants is kind of an essential thing for a lot of aspects in witchcraft, right? So when we are talking about mediumship, I think it's really important to understand that it's an inherent gift that all of us have. Mediumship is really when your spirit reaches out and touches another spirit. In our particular case for this topic, we're talking about reaching out and touching a plant spirit. And this is something that is a long-standing tradition. There's a lot of different ways to approach it. There's a lot of different ways to look at it. But if we are going to have any sort of foundation in working with the green magic and working with the green world, it's all going to start here with that plant spirit relationship. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about some of the things that people might be misconstruing, maybe some things that you might be misunderstanding, and even more importantly, some of the things that maybe are just bad advice, okay? So my goal with this is to help you get closer to your plant spirit and whatever plant that you're working with or whatever plant that you might happen to have a relationship with. All right, so the first thing, again, is that mediumship, it's an inherent gift that all of us have. It's something that everybody can do. And like I said, it's when your spirit reaches out and touches another spirit and they get to have a little bit of a kiki. They get to have a chat. And in that chat, hopefully you're getting information. Hopefully you're able to go further into wisdom and mysteries and things that that plant spirit wants to share. However, it also may not be something like that. It may be a very light experience. And I think that when we really dive into this, we have to talk about expectations. So what are you expecting to have when it comes to an experience with a plant spirit? What is it that you are waiting for to manifest, right? And a lot of us have, again, some interesting ideas of what this is supposed to look like. And if you aren't somebody who is a supernatural psychic and has visions and is very, visual and things like that, you're probably not going to see plant spirits. You're probably going to have a very different relationship. So the first thing you have to do is understand and orient your expectations in a way that align with your abilities as a witch, no matter what stage you're at, no matter what your natural propensities might be. And to do this, I think it's really important to be open and honest with yourself, but also look at your other experiences. If you are somebody who has never really interacted with a spirit before, chances are working with a plant spirit is going to be maybe a little more difficult, right? Plant spirits in general tend to be some of the more shy, we'll say, spirit types that are out there. And for some of us, they come out screaming, and for some of us, they really withdraw. And so maybe working with a plant spirit and trying to having a bunch of expectations about what's going to happen with the spirit may not be a good thing to enter into that relationship with. For most of us, and me included, my relationship with plants and the spirits that are indwelling within plants, is really one of kind of study, and it's one that I it's always evolving. I have over, I think the last count was over 1,000 plants, different varieties, on the property, whether it's in the house or it's outside, and that's because I have an obsession with plants. But in that, all of them are different. They each have their own vibe. They each have their own personality. And not all of them are really excited about working with humans. Not all of them are going to be forthcoming with their gifts. You're going to have to kind of really work at it sometimes. And so going in, understanding that whatever your expectations are, they might need to be adjusted for the actual situation, your skill set, and what the plant is. Beyond that, I would also say that you should work with your allies that you already have to help elicit that experience, to help bring that spirit forth and help to establish that relationship with the plant spirit. So what I mean by this is that I will work with especially my guides, especially my teachers, my teaching spirits. I work with a set of spirits that specifically help me cultivate a relationship with the plant kingdom. And so I go to them and I say, hey, I'm going to go see what's wrong with this plant that I have, and I'm having this hard time having a relationship with it. It doesn't look healthy. Hey, plant spirit teachers, help me establish a relationship with this plant in a way that I'm going to be able to communicate with it and hopefully save it, right? Or I get a new plant and I want to learn about it. I want to meet it, right? I'm going to talk to other plants to help establish that connection, or I'm going to work with other spirits to help establish that connection. So don't be afraid to call your allies in. Don't be afraid to call your friends in. If you had an ancestor, like I have a great grandmother who was very into gardening, very into plants. She had a famous garden where we grew up. People would come from all over to come and look at it. And so I just work with her every once in a while and say, hey, Grandma B, you think you can help me out with this thing? And she's been pretty helpful. And so, in that way, it also allows you to connect your plant spirit work with other elements within your craft, right? So look around for friends, look around for allies that already exist, and for methods that you've already used when communicating with plant or with spirits in general. You'd be surprised. You can actually work with something like a tarot deck to make your relationship with the plant spirits something that is more tangible, something that you can dissect and understand, and you have a language between the two of you. There's a lot of really great oracle decks that exist. I know Christopher Pinzak and Maxine Miller just came out with a fantastic one. And you can work with these decks to help just alleviate the pressure that you are building up between you and the plant when you are trying to have that relationship with them. So the same reason we would turn to tarot, or even a talking board, right? Like all of those methods exist to help clarify the communication between you and a spirit, or you and an energy form. And so you can use those things in your plant work just as effectively as you could use them in any other aspect of your craft. So look for things that you already have, look for what you already know, look for allies and friends, bring those into the process, and chances are you're actually going to end up having a much easier time making those connections, right? The other thing that I want to talk to you about is that there's something called the green flame, and it's an energy source that we're going to be talking a lot about throughout horticulture, pretty much probably every horticulture, I would imagine. And the reason for this is that the green flame is the energy of verdant life. It's something that all plants have. The best way to kind of think of it is if you've ever seen blacktop crack and then a little plant kind of grow up through the blacktop. That is the energy of the green flame. It's the verdant force that will take over the cities if we stop taking care of them, right? And if we were to just disappear, nature would reclaim it, right? That energy, that force that would do that is the green flame. And we have all had interactions with it. Sometimes it's a pleasant interaction, sometimes it's not. If you get poison ivy and things like that, you've been kind of burned by the green flame. But at the same time, if you've ever taken medicines and they're derived from plants, well, you've received the benefits of the green flame. And so reaching out and connecting with the green flame and establishing a relationship with the green flame is actually going to be very beneficial for not only establishing relationships with the plant spirits, but also in general, it'll help level up your work as a witch. And I mean, in general, because you are able to tap into the green life force. You are able to tap into that verdant energy that exists in all living plants, and essentially is the foundation for the red flame, which is what we have as mammals and beings that are very complicated in the way that we are. And so working with the green flame, reaching out and understanding it in a way that you would be understanding or working with any type of other psychic energy is really super important right now. for anybody who's wanting to take their work to the next level, or anybody who's at a place where they're ready to get more results when it comes to working with the plant spirits. So I want you to think about the green flame. I want you to think about that idea of a verdant, universal life force that permeates all things. It is. We know that there's going to be plant life and similar things elsewhere. We know that just statistically this has to happen. So this is this universal force that reaches out across all time and dimensions, and it happens to be manifesting itself in the plants physically. That we have all around us, whether it's in your garden or you're out into the forest or you have a bunch of plants in your home. This energy is just permeating from the plant world. So as a step to help establish a relationship with the plant spirit, you want to connect to the green flame. And you can meditate, you can reach out and touch the green force, if you will. Go for a nature walk. I mean, these are things that we're basically doing already. We just aren't putting a name to it. We haven't necessarily given a direction and a cause, but it's the thing that you do when you go out and you're grounding, and you can, you dump that energy and you go out for like a nature walk and you've grounded, and then that thing that replaces the energy, that's the green flame. That's nature refueling you. And so establish a relationship with that, establish a connection with that. You can hold a plant if you have a house plant or you have even seedlings. You can hold the plant and you can just connect to it, just like you'd connect to a crystal or anything else, but you're looking for the verdant flame, right? The green flame. And then from there, you let it influence your intuition. You let it guide you through the process of hopefully meeting the spirit. For me, this is a really subtle process. This isn't something that like comes out screaming. After I get to know them, then I kind of feel like their energies can be a little more like, but especially at first, plants tend to be shy. They tend to be very much consumed with doing their own thing. They have a limited time, if you will, most plants, to get stuff done. And so, they're very busy on that particular thing that they have to get, done. Once you establish a relationship with the plant, and you establish a relationship with the greater spirit behind the plant, then that changes and that shifts, and they will take more time for you and all of that wonderful stuff. But don't be surprised if, the first couple times you try to connect to a plant, it just isn't acknowledging you. We are very different types of life, right? And so getting the wires to connect in the right way takes some time. So don't worry about it if in the past you haven't had luck with this. Just keep trying over and over and over again. It is something that if you can envision the green flame, you can you can visualize that energy wrapping around you and becoming part of your own energy signature, and then go to a plant, the relationship, the connection should be a lot easier. It should be a lot smoother. So I recommend that very much. So taking that look of the green flame and taking that idea of the green flame to the next step, and going around in your home, going around in your garden, and acknowledging the green flame in all of your plants, connecting to the green flame in all of those beds and all of those pots and all of those hanging baskets and wherever there might be a plant, and just spending time acknowledging the energy there. And then if you sense the plant spirit, spending time acknowledging and talking to the plant spirit, right? So, because again, connections that you already have can help build new connections, right? So the more you work with the plants that are in your area, the more that you work with the plants that are already maybe part of your craft, the more likely it is that you're going to have an easier time working with other types of plants, right? And other types of plant spirits. The green flame is going to be the bridge that connects all of this together. And it is going to be something that the more you spend time working with, the more you spend time becoming a vessel for, the more likely it is that the plant spirits are going to come into your life and that they're going to just make themselves known. And so just from a boosting up the muscles, from a making it an easier process in general, I highly recommend taking a look at things from that perspective. So working with the green flame, imbuing yourself with it, imbuing your life with it, bringing plants into your home, all of these things can really help you level up and take things to the next level. All right. A little trick that I have for people who tend to feel like they're stuck when it comes to working with the plant spirit. And let's say that they can feel the energy, but they haven't really felt the consciousness of the plant come through. This is something I hear a lot about from my fellow horticulturalists. And I actually have a little trick that works for me, and I'm hoping it might work for you. So there is something super duper 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 witchy about chanting things in Latin, right? Like it, maybe it's because I grew up with the TV stuff that I did. Maybe it's the movies. I don't know. But there's a really fantastic way of establishing a direct link with the plant spirit, and that is to chant the Latin name or the botanical name of the plant over and over and over again. And this really does sound witchy. I mean, it just does. I mean, if you go through just about any plant and you were to say its scientific name or its botanical name, you're going to get a really cool little witchy sounding thing. And so it feels natural to kind of step into that. And that's something that I have a lot of fun doing. So especially if it's a new plant. If it's a new plant, I am all about going through, holding it, chanting its botanical name, helping through words, through intention, through clear thought, getting into the plant's vibration and establishing a connection using its name is really a fantastic practice to do. So that's my little hint to you, is to hold it and chant its name. And I bet you something will pop up and say, what do you want? Another thing to do is to start working with the plant at seed stage and then grow the plant up into maturity and hopefully beyond, right? And this is something that a lot of us don't necessarily have the patience, the ability, the time to do, and I totally get it. But there is something very real and magical about raising something from its seed all the way up through. And if it is a connection that you are looking for, then having that very, paternal, maternal kind of connection to the plant, it can be groundbreaking, honestly. There are some plants that I absolutely could not establish a firm connection with, that it took time and it took growing and it took harvesting and going through the whole life cycle with the plant before it would really unlock itself and reveal its mysteries to me. And so, there are some plants I'm still working on, and I know I'm going to be working on in the very similar way. But growing it from that life's beginning all the way through the end can be really an incredible aspect. It can be an incredible hidden little gem of a practice to include into the work that you're already doing. Also get a plant that's already grown, it's already started, and then connect to it once that process is already started, once it's already gone from seed to something that's more substantial. The difference, of course, is just that you aren't going to get the benefit of working with it from such an early stage up and on. However, you are going to have something that has a much stronger green flame, right? It's already established, it's healthy, hopefully, and so it's going to be easier to sense and tap into that energy if you are somebody who can do that just instantly. I find that working with plants that I get from the Home Depot or Lowe's, for the garden, they're ready to go. They are loaded with energy. They definitely have a purpose, and they have been started specifically to, help us have lots of tomatoes or whatever. They are genetically modified. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, genetically modifying plants, especially our food stock, it's a necessary aspect of civilization, right? However, I can tell you that working with those plants is something that is easy, it's fast, and it's a great thing to do if you want to get your hand on a lot of different types of energies all at once. Just go to Home Depot, walk around. What does the tomato feel like versus the cucumber plant? What does the lavender feel like versus the nostrum, right? And just go through that, and you can have that experience. You can also do this at a fantastic botanical garden, which you probably have a wonderful botanical garden in your area, or a wooded lot in your area, or a forest or something. But going around and just sensing the difference and understanding what one plant feels versus another. And then elevating that to the element of this is a poisonous plant. How does a poisonous plant feel psychically compared to a plant that isn't poisonous? Maybe a plant that's considered medicinal, right? And like aloe. So aloe versus datura, what's the difference energetically? Well, there's a lot. And so much of this is just going to be you sitting down and figuring out how this stuff works for you, because mediumship in general is such a radical thing, and no two people function the same. So much of this is going to be you taking time to observe and record and question, and then move from a place of being informed through your personal experience. It's building gnosis, right? And so that's what we're looking at doing when it comes to plant spirit mediumship. There are going to be some plants that you have a fantastic relationship with, and those plants are going to, once you do have a connection with them and they're growing strong, and you have, basically learned the introductory mysteries, so to speak, they may offer themselves to you as a companion in magic and become a plant spirit familiar, or a plant familiar. There is a fantastic book called Plant Spirit Familiar by Christopher Penczak. I highly recommend it. It's a really great, all-encompassing. It'll tell you everything you need. It's all there. Check this book out. It'll help out a lot when it comes to understanding what exactly that type of spirit is and what it is capable of doing in your life. But that is the next stage up. So once you have your partnerships and your allies in the plant world, then you go into that stage of working with them in a more direct, projective kind of way. But not everybody needs that, and not everybody wants that. And I think that when a lot of people come in, they just kind of go straight for that kind of a thing, which is fine. But there's a world of plants out there, and there's a world of knowledge and wisdom that's waiting to be shared by those plants. So don't necessarily go straight for the witchy thing, because that may not exactly be what is right for you. I am a good case in point with that. I have mandrakes and datura and belladonna, and I have a bunch of the witchy things growing out in my garden, but my real love for plants are things that are often considered houseplants, because they are tropical or subtropical, and they require, certain conditions. And so those things are raised in my house, and so they're houseplants. And I happen to have a much stronger relationship with those plants. And here's the thing, I'm not necessarily at all working with any of the indigenous information or traditions that from where these plants come from. To do that for me would be disingenuous. I'm not from that. I don't have from that region. I don't have that culture that has been shared with me in any way, shape, or form. So I am flying blind, right, when it comes to the properties of Monstera and all of those things, which is why I wrote Houseplant Horticulture, which was to address this big gap that we have in a culture when it comes to working with things that are considered houseplants. Now, my relationship with houseplants just happens to be one that's really strong, and I noticed that over time, as my collection built and grew and turned into this monstrous beast that it is, it really came out of this love of the psychic experience of getting to meet these different spirits and work with them. And I realized I could fill my house with these really beautiful members of nature, right? And in doing so, I could bring nature into my home, and that became really important to me as a witch. So I have a lot of house plants, and I have a lot of plants that are considered perennial, and so they maybe go through a dormancy cycle. They don't necessarily die off like a lot of the plants that we, like herbs and things like that, tend to. So for me, I really didn't fall in love with plant magic until I started working with houseplants. And it wasn't because I didn't have a relationship with plants before. I grew up raising my own food and, all of that stuff. So it wasn't that I was divorced from it. It's that I didn't have an appreciation for it because it didn't touch me in the way that houseplants eventually did. And then once I had houseplants in my life and I was able to grow really beautiful things that just should not grow indoors, and I would have that moment of like, wow, life is beautiful and incredible, and look at the green flame and what it's capable of doing. Then I fell in love with plants and plant spirits, and my interest in all of it just exploded. But it took me getting to that point and having a personal relationship with what actually started off was a black magic black coral colocasia, which is a black elephant ear. And I grew it right next to my desk, and before I knew it, it was huge, and we were having conversations, and it was jet black and just beautiful plant. And that was all it took, was me to have something weird that wasn't something that I was used to seeing, that was something that required a little bit more attention to take care of. in order for me to just fall in love with the whole thing. So you may be one of those people who you just haven't met your plant yet. I know it sounds kind of cheesy, but it's true. Maybe you just haven't met your plant yet. So go experience as much as you can. Like I said, go to the gardens, especially a botanical garden, because you're going to get all kinds of fun stuff. And you're going to be exposed to things that maybe you wouldn't have been exposed to otherwise. And yes, it is very important to have a relationship with your regional spirits and the regional plant spirits that are, in your area. However, it may be one of those things that you just haven't met a plant that turns you on in the right way yet, right? And so aside from doing those things that I think are kind of no-brainers, right? Like go for a walk outside, go meet your local plant spirits, go work with a plant that has healed you, or that you can add into your practice as a healer. Like all those things that we're told to do all the time and all of the books. But what about opening ourselves up to something a little different, right? So next time you're at the zoo, look at the plants, right? And pay attention to what's going on there. There are different energies that plants have from different parts of the world. Plants that come from South America have a very different vibe from plants that come from the middle of Europe, right? And so being able to go beyond just the herb aspect of working with plant spirits, going beyond the plants that we tend to default to, trees, things like that. That's all great. Like, don't get me wrong, but there's magic in all plants. There's energy, wisdom, medicine in all plants. And it's really just about us opening ourselves up spiritually, psychically, mentally, and physically, right, to having a relationship with them. And it takes time, and you have to record your data, and you have to come up with a hypothesis and challenge that and test things out, talk to your friends, right? Like, this is work because it is real, and the relationships that we develop with these plants can last a lifetime, right? And so taking time to sit down with your plant, chant its name, connect the green flame that a little, my Star Trek people out here, you're going to see me on this one. But the way that I connect my flame, my red flame, to the green flame of a plant is very much like a Vulcan mind meld. I hold the plant and I say, my flame to your flame to mine. And I visualize the two flames mixing. And that's how I connect to it. So it's just like, I say, it's a Vulcan mind meld, and that's what I do. And I have no regrets. But it works. And so you sit down, you make time with it, you chant its name, you connect your flame to its flame, and you allow it to communicate to you, because you have to learn its language. It's not going to learn yours, right? And those are the keys. Those are the things that really are the vital essence of what it is that we're doing with these plant spirits. And then the rest is gnosis. The rest is experience. The rest is whatever it is that they want to share with you. So yeah, thanks for listening to me ramble on today. It is a good, happy Friday. And again, the first day of